Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a predictions episode. We have hit the month of November. More of these contenders are releasing as we speak. I think we've seen, both together, even more of them. And we're about to enter a few other of them releasing in a few weeks. We've got Wicked, we've got Avatar, Marty Supreme, all that stuff. Marty Supreme trailer just dropped this morning. So you have a date on the day we are recording this. So yeah, any thoughts on where the race currently stands, Anthony, before we get into our updated predictions from I think the last time we did this was about a month ago. So it's been a little bit.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of those potential contenders release and therefore kind of prove their might in this race, or some have definitely faded away. I think what I'm looking at as I'm always looking at, but especially this year because it is so wide open, I feel, is looking for those other nominations that the film could, pick up. And I do think there's probably like six or seven that I'm pretty confident in, and then that like bottom three is definitely up for grabs. And I'm also trying to just tune into the Academy sensibility. What will round out the 10 and make it look like your traditional Oscar ballot, basically. Because you can throw in
Mhm.
some titles that theoretically could make it in, but then when you see them all together, it's like, I don't know, that seems to go in one direction or another. That doesn't really feel like ultimately that will be the list. So that's why I'm feeling pretty good about it. I feel like this is a list that come the morning of the announcement, I could definitely see these 10, compiled together as the 10 nominees. So I'm excited to talk about it.
That's what we are. We're forecasting here. We're not just thinking of what's the picture nominees in the moment right now. We're thinking about what it's going to be in January. It's in the
Oscar
name.
meteorologists.
Yeah, we're meteorologists. Yeah. So without further ado, and you'll notice I've now made added little updates to how much our placements from the films have changed from our last ranking. So as you can see, some films have gone up a little bit, some have gone down. So for me, I've still got Hamnet winning, and then I've got One Battle After Another, Sinners, It Was Just an Accident, Sentimental Value, Marty Supreme, Frankenstein, Wicked for Good, Avatar, and Train Dreams. I think we only have one or two differences. You've got One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Wicked, Sinners, It Was Just an Accident, Sentimental Value, Marty Supreme, Secret Agent, Train Dreams, and Frankenstein. So yeah, we've got 9 in common, which is pretty
Mhm.
good and also a little concerning at in November. But yeah, I let we can start at the top here a little bit because I think like 99% of people probably still have One Battle After Another winning in Best Picture. Um, I said in the last video I'll probably switch over to that, but I've never had One Battle After Another as my picture winner yet. I'm sticking with Hamnet still. Part of me feels like yes, One Battle After Another is beloved. It's definitely going to be PTA's Oscar moment. I just think people are underestimating how strong Hamnet is overall. It's collecting so many festival audience awards like Infinity Stones at this point. It's just showing how well it's playing overall with people, like the general public. It's not too artsy or too sad, or any of that stuff, which I think is what people might have had a concern for the film about. It wouldn't be winning these prizes that generally go to more crowd pleasing films if it was too sad or artsy. And film festival audiences are full of people with wide variety of taste in film, and Hamnet is appealing to seemingly all of them with all of these wins. And I think you should also just never underestimate emotion when it comes to Best Picture. When people are voting, especially artists, a lot of them prefer to feel films rather than to analyze or intellectualize them. And a lot of the times, people vote for whatever film made them feel the most and gave them the biggest emotional response. And I think that this year that is Hamnet. Everyone has been hearing about how people are crying at all of these screenings at the film festivals. No other film is moving people like this. And it's not like they won't be able to award One Battle After Another. I think the narrative around rewarding Battle After Another, One Battle After Another, is we're finally going to reward PTA. And I think lots of people I can imagine lots of people voting for him in director. And that's where they reward the film because they're giving PTA his Oscar. And then when it comes to Best Picture, they will go with their heart and what moved them. And I think maybe that could very well be Hamnet. So that's why I'm sticking with that, even though you could make the argument if One Battle After Another was like at these film festivals, it would have won all these prizes over Hamnet. I think oftentimes people underestimate movies that move people, that make people cry. Artists vote with their heart a lot of the time. So that's why I'm sticking with that. But you've still got like a majority of people, One Battle After Another up top. with Hamnet at number two. I think those are definitely our top two for the win here, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Hamnet still has to open. You know, one battle after
Mhm.
another has benefited from being in theaters, doing well, doing, I think, better than people expected, which is always good headlines. And I also think you just see the general like tenor of conversation. You know, Jennifer Lawrence bringing up, I believe in the New York Times interview she did, like how much she loves One Battle After Another. Spielberg having seen it 3 times. You know, there just seems to be a general just celebration of this movie, a celebration of Paul Thomas Anderson. It has the scope of a Best Picture, the ensemble of a Best Picture. The craft is behind it. It's going to be very strong in the acting categories, very strong in the directing category. So yeah, I think that it just has so much going for it, and I do think it is a more entertaining and rewatchable movie than I think Hamnet will present itself. I think a lot of people are going to be one and done with that because it is very emotional. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Manchester by the Sea, where people liked it and they definitely wanted to give it
It's
attention.
not that sad though. End on very cathartic notes that people don't like. You're not watching Hamnet like in Manchester by the Sea. That's just kind of like a brutal watch throughout most of it. You're just kind of like really, really rough. Most of the film, I would say the majority of the film is not like depressing, brutal stuff. And the end of the film is very cathartic and beautiful. So I don't think it's quite Manchester by the Sea level depressing, but it is one of the sadder contenders for sure.
Yeah. And so I just think that if like because I always say that the movie that wins Best Picture is sometimes the most rewatchable movie of the group. You know, you look at something like Everything Everywhere, Anora, Oppenheimer. These are movies that when the voters get the screeners, they're willing to watch again with somebody who hasn't seen it. You know, and so I think One Battle After Another has that energy. I think Sinners has that energy, which is why it's so high. And that's why I think Hamnet. I could see a lot of people being very moved, very motivated, and will be very happy to vote for Jesse Buckley, maybe Paul Mescal, maybe the script. But then when it comes to Best Picture, I think they're going to have fonder memories of One Battle After Another. And let's also not forget that it is speaking to the time in a very prescient way. And so I think it will benefit in that regard. I just think so far, and I'm curious, there's so far nothing that's gotten in its way. And you could argue Hamnet hasn't either, but I think Hamnet hasn't performed at the box office yet. So that's still a big question mark. You know, what is going to be the conversation when it actually opens and people beyond the industry and the festivals start to get their eyes on this?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to be 100% like trying to be a 100% accurate predictor, I would have one battle at number one. I just part of me is thinking ahead, and I also people are like already trying to make Hamnet like an Oscar villain and stuff. I see a world where people, because some of these other films like Oppenheimer or stuff like that, I don't think they had a film up against them that was giving audiences an emotional response like Hamnet does. I feel like nothing in that year was touching people and affecting people on that level. I think it's pretty rare for us to have a film, I think, on the level of Hamnet in terms of the emotional response it gives people. And I'm keeping an eye on that. I think emotion, especially with artists, is something that to keep an eye on and
Yeah.
just never underestimate.
Yeah, I think right now it's definitely the number two. And it's a very strong number two.
People are still underestimating it a little bit. I think people just expect it to be a one battle after another sweep. I don't think that will be the case. I think it'll be a little bit of a fight, especially at places like the BAFTAs, where I think Hamnet will do very well,
Yeah.
for sure. So those are the for sure top two. And then we've got a different number three. I've still got Sinners at number three. I think it's going to be strong. I think it's still going to be a top five contender. I do worry it will end up like some other Warner Brothers contenders where it gets a bunch of nominations, like a Barbie or even like the Dune movies, or the second Dune more so, and it only wins like one or two things below the line. I fear that will probably be its outcome, but I still think it's a strong enough contender to still have there up at top three. I think it can still win SAG Ensemble and stuff too. So at number three, you've moved up a little bit. Wicked for Good.
Yeah, I don't know what I had at number three before, but I yes, Wicked for Good is. I
you
think
had, I don't think you had Rental Family is what you had. A little bit of
it's been that long since we've done one of these. Oh God.
then yeah, a little a month, yeah.
Yes, Wicked for Good, I think, is firmly at number three. So far, the buzz has been really strong. I think a lot of people are saying it's as good, or in some cases, I think some people are reacting more to substantively to the movie because of what the subject matter is, and that it is a darker, a more politically interested chapter. And so I think that so far Buzz is good. It's going to do very well in the craft categories. Ariana Grande is looking very strong in supporting actress. And so, yeah, I just see no reason to doubt it. I think it's coming in with a lot of love for the first part. And because this is the finale, this is the last chance. And I think there are definitely a lot of people who are going to be very excited about this movie. And it is probably one of the more entertaining movies on the list. So I think it'll rank very high on a preferential ballot. So I really just right now, I see no reason to doubt it. This, especially recently, they've been going very much in picture at least, into nominating the big blockbusters, whether it's Dune, whether it's Barbie. Oppenheimer is kind of a separate thing. But
Yeah.
so I see no reason to doubt it. I mean, if you have Avatar: The Way of Water, Top Gun: Maverick, and Dune Part Two all getting nominated for Best Picture, I really think Wicked. There's no reason why it doesn't belong in that group, especially because it has overperformed compared to those movies in the acting categories. So, and that's always a good branch to have in your corner.
Yeah, the biggest branch. So of course, always
Yeah.
a good branch to have in your corner. And unlike pretty much any other blockbuster, which is why when we talk about it, it's a little bit of an anomaly in terms of a sequel and a blockbuster. It does have that acting support that pretty much none of those other past blockbusters have had. So yeah, I mean, I've got it in there. I've still got it in the bottom half. I think, yeah, number 8. I just don't see it being a like contender for the win. Is I think some of these other films are a little stronger to win, like a screenplay category or a top acting category or something like that. Whereas
Well,
I think Wicked will. I don't even. I think even. I don't think. I mean, right above it, I've got Frankenstein from Netflix, which you have now. Finally, at long last, I've been telling you for like the
well,
last month, add it
listen,
into picture, and you finally added it.
well, because frankly, it hasn't gotten as warm a response as other Guillermo del Toro pictures. So I was a little hesitant because I always think sometimes if we're dealing with a great filmmaker, if you can't surpass your own material, how can you surpass the rest of the films in contention? But it is doing well with the crafts. And I think because there's actually a lot of interest towards Jacob Elordi potentially slipping into Best Supporting Actor, I think that is the
Mhm.
sort of nomination and enthusiasm for the movie that makes me think that this could happen. Also, now that House of Dynamite seems to has fizzled and lost its spark, and also just a lot of the other also ran contenders. I finally saw Begonia, and I think it would have had a shot to get on here if it didn't have that ending. But oh boy,
Yeah. Sticking on Frankenstein for a second, I think with the Frankenstein Wicked for Good conversation, I think it's them versus each other in a lot of the tech categories. And right now, I'm seeing that as a Poor Things versus Barbie kind of situation, where I think the Frankenstein would obviously be Poor Things. I think that is just more fresh, newer production design that they didn't, and costume design and all that that they didn't award last year. So I think that's probably why they'll lean more towards that. And it's very impressive work. It's great stuff. They're already doing like featurettes on all of the work and the makeup and all that. So I think that's probably where I would lean in that battle, which is why I've got it ranked just a little bit higher than Wicked. I think it's going to take home some of the previous wins Wicked had last year for the tech categories, but it could be close. It could be close.
again,
Yeah.
I still think because some of the major elements of Wicked for Good's craft is spoilery. I want to get our eyes on it before we take a look because it could
Okay.
be
Yeah.
a very 1-to-1 ratio. You know, we've seen Jacob Elordi's Frankenstein, but let's wait to see some of the characters that I will not mention, though the trailer certainly teases them
Yes,
inexplicably.
it seems like most people know at this point. We've both had, if we're moving back up a little bit, it was just an accident move up a little bit. I'm feeling pretty bullish. I've for the last few weeks been feeling pretty bullishly positive on this one and performing well. I think people are now starting to come around to it a little bit. I think the narrative surrounding a filmmaker like Panahi is kind of just an incredible narrative. His win, I think, would like symbolize perseverance in a way, the way he's been punished and jailed for his art and is still making art. I think, especially this year in the state of the world nowadays, especially in political, or even in Hollywood too. I think it will show that cinema can outlast censorship in a little bit of a way, especially with Hollywood. The studios right now with Paramount and the whole Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen
Mhm.
Colbert situation. There's lots of people worried about censorship. So I think all of that, I think they'll want to award Panahi somewhere. And they could do it in foreign film. I have it winning foreign film and or international feature and original screenplay right now. Um, but yeah, I think rewarding art that speaks to freedom of expression and resistance against censorship and authoritarianism is a very strong narrative. So I think that's going to be probably Neon's top contender, I would guess. I think they're going to probably realize that this has a better shot than sentimental value to win those two categories. And yeah, it's just a
It's just a better
killer
narrative.
narrative. Yeah,
Sentimental
it's a
values
great
are
movie.
phenomenal. They're both excellent, top
Neon
tier
picks
movies of the
picks
year.
good ones.
I honestly think they're my number one and my number two of the year so far, which is pretty fun. But they're remarkable. But there is a better narrative for "It Was Just an Accident." I do
Mhm.
think though, like I have it as 5 and 6. You have it, I think, as what, 3, 4,
Got
and
it at
5.
3 and 5 or 4. Yeah, 4 and 5. Yeah,
Like we have kind of basically similar.
This-
There is a
yeah.
part of me that thinks that sentimental value might play better to the overall Academy. Like in Best Picture, sentimental value might be a little higher, but I think overall, as a contender, It Was Just an Accident is going to be better because you're right, it has a better chance, I think, at those other categories. So it's a weird thing because sentimental value, I think, it is a movie about making movies too. That
Mhm.
always helps, and it's just such richly written and detailed and emotionally specific, and it's a beautiful film. It's
It's
also
amazing.
subtle in a way that It Was Just an Accident sometimes isn't, which I think again, It Was Just an
It's more
Accident.
direct.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. And
So
I don't know how much I feel like sentimental value is a kind of movie people will like maybe respect more than like have a deep like passion and love for. Um,
I mean, it's I don't know. I was quite emotionally moved, and I think it could grab
I was
people in
too.
this
Yeah.
way. I think personally, it's the marriage story of this year. It's the sharply written, beautifully acted movie, but it's a movie that people really admire, but there's not really a motivating reason to like get crazy about it and
Rewarded.
feel that passion to award it, at least in Best Picture. Where again, you could definitely see people feel like It Was Just an Accident. There is a purpose of giving that. There is real worth in giving that Best Picture. The way that Parasite, there was real worth in giving that Best Picture. So I think that maybe
And
that's
also,
why ultimately we ordered it the way we did. But they're both
yeah,
again phenomenal.
top tier,
Um,
great movies. And all Panahi needs to do is like win like the Goth, I think probably the Gotham Award coming up, and he gives a speech, and then I think especially once he starts giving speeches, I think he can just sweep, especially international or screenplay. I think both. So yeah, I think similar to like Anatomy of a Fall, once that started winning, I think that won the Gotham and then like the Golden Globe, and then people were like, wait, this might win screenplay. So I think it might be a similar case for that film as well here. Um, what
so
else do
you
we
have
have to talk
touch
about
on
here?
Train Dreams because I think it's a smaller
Yes,
movie. It still needs to do some work, but I think we have more faith in it because there's more potential for it to grow. And if it can get that Joel Edgerton nomination along with it in screenplay, it could have a very similar package to a lot of other kind of these indie darlings of the last couple of years. And um, yeah, I just think again compared to some of these other movies, there's nothing so far working against Train Dreams other than maybe you could say Frankenstein and Netflix's priorities, where I think
mhm.
there are things working against the 11 through 15s that are on our list.
Yeah, I think when you look at last year, the few movies that were fighting for that last spot in Best Picture, you had Nickel Boys, A Real Pain, Sing Sing. And I think what ended up getting Nickel Boys in there over those films is a stronger contingent of passion of people who are like, this is my favorite film of the year. This is one of the best films like of the year, of the decade.
And
I
it's
think,
cinematic achievement. I think
and a
something about
cinematic achievement.
the way
And
it
I think
looks.
people
Yeah.
people are seeing Train Dreams right now. I mean, it's my second favorite film of the year so far. I love it. I would have a huge passion for it. And I think Netflix should realize that this is their film that has actual passion. I think all their other films, I mean, Frankenstein's got pretty good reception, but it's still more mixed. This is a film that people are leaving and being like, this is one of, if not the best films of the year. I think that level of passion, even if it's just like, I mean, the last few years we've had even like a Nickel Boys or Women Talking,
Drive
Past
My
Lives, films that get in just barely on picture and screenplay, pretty much it. And it could get like cinematography too. I think it is the most beautiful film I've seen so far this year, so that's plausible. I think Joel Edgerton as well. He's already gotten some acting awards like for Milberg and stuff, so I think it's plausible for him to sneak in there. And I think that's probably about it. I don't think it would get much else, but I do think when you look at we'll get to the honorable mentions in a second, but the other films in contention, I think this will have more like passionate, like number one, this is one of my favorite films of the year votes than
above the
most films will
line.
have.
The other
Mhm.
contenders, their support will be below the line, where this, could be screenplay, actor, those are major. If you have the writers and you have the actors, you can go far. And
Hmm.
so I think that the one question I have is that will enough people see it the way hopefully others have seen it, which is in a theater? Will the screener issue
Hopefully.
bring it down? So we'll see. But also it has Felicity Jones, who's coming off of The Brutalist. I think
Hmm.
it's in a good position to grow. Um,
For
do
sure.
you want to hit, because then we can hit the other two that we have in common that we haven't talked about yet, which is Sinners and Marty Supreme, and then we can go into
Yeah.
the one discrepancy.
And Marty Supreme just released a trailer. Uh, some people have this being like a top 5, like top tier level contender. I don't think it's going to be quite that strong. Like I don't have this getting into best director or anything like that. Um, I, I think it will be a little more divisive than those New York Film Festival reactions let on. I mean, it's a nearly 3 hour long, intense film that I think some people will find grating. Um, and it will box office wise, I think it might not do amazing during like the middle of voting and award season, but I think it'll still be strong enough and high quality enough, and it's A24's top push that it'll still get in there. I just don't think it's like a top like 5 level contender at this point. That could change. It's close, but I don't think it's stronger than any of those films I have above it. And you've got it right there, similarly at number 7.
I think that for me, it's Timothy Chalamet is a major force for why this movie is going to do well. I feel in this category, it has the period, which will do very well in the crafts, and I think ultimately, if the movie stays true to this dream big theme, I mean that's always a good theme to have in a Best Picture contender.
Very
Uh,
connected to me as well.
Yeah, and so A24, it's their main push. At least we assume it to be.
I don't know what else they would push.
Exactly. So yeah, I just think it's firmly. We both have it at 7, right? I think it's firmly in
I've got
that.
it at 6, but
Oh,
yeah,
you because you have Wicked low down,
I do.
foolishly.
That's not that low. Number 8, not too
Yes, but
bad.
it's just, I listen. We don't need to mitigate this again.
Where do
At
you
least
think it ranked last year? I don't think it
yeah.
was top 5
I will
last year.
never forget almost 2 years ago now when we did our first 2024 episode and you didn't put Wicked on the list, but you put Twisters on the list. I will never let you forget that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's
so
fair.
yeah,
That's
Marty
fair.
Supreme, I think very strongly in the 6 or 7 position. Um,
Close. Yeah,
all right. Now, you're going to tell me why you think that 3 years later, there's going to be that much of a push to put Avatar Fire and Ash in this category over something that I think more people will respect as a piece of cinema.
because well, I think people always underestimate how much people like and respect these movies. I think people respect Jim Cameron in general. Um, I'd never doubt him either. It's never smart to doubt him. And I just think people like these movies, and right during the middle of award season, it's going to make $2 billion. It's going to make a bunch of money. I think it's going to be just as good as the last
We
one.
think it's going to be 2 billion.
I
You're
think
putting
so. Yeah.
okay.
I mean, it doesn't have much competition. There's really nothing else releasing in December, and then it's got the entire
Yeah.
year, New Year.
I just
So I think
again, I just feel like the everything that was special about Avatar: The Way of Water when compared to Avatar 1, I just don't know what's going to really excite people enough to get it here. I think it's going to have its fans, but I honestly think the reason why The Way of Water got in here was just the mad respect that Cameron was able to do it again. But the fact that he does it a third time, I just don't think is that impressive. And I don't think, this is not going to have all around support. You look at the nomination disparity between Avatar 1 and The Way of Water, I imagine,
most of
Fire.
those aren't natural things to drop for a sequel,
Yeah, but
though. Like it's not going to get
the
director for the
worry
second one.
is it a trend downward? It's definitely Fire and Ash is definitely not going to overperform Way of Water, and so
I
then you're
think
looking.
that's its bottom. That's the worst it can do. Way of Water, those nominations, maybe
You,
one
you
less,
think it's
but
going to get the same nominations as Way of Water?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'll make it
pretty much, yeah, exact same. Picture, sound, visual effects, production design. Who knows? Maybe Miley Cyrus's song. Maybe add one there.
she'll have to kneecap Diane Warren,
Diane Warren,
but
which is hard to do. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't. I'm just not feeling it. I think there was a lot of anticipation around Way of Water. I'm not feeling it this time. I think that there is not going to be this sort of like. I feel like at this point, it's this what the whole tenor around this movie feels like it's just another great Avatar movie. Like it's just another Avatar movie. And so I just think that there's going to be more interest in The Secret Agent. It has potential in other categories like international feature and best actor, maybe even screenplay. We'll see. And I think people will get more excited about this. We've seen in the years past that this can activate a real strong section of voters and fans. And I just think the enthusiasm for The Secret Agent will be higher than the enthusiasm for Avatar: Fire and Ash.
Maybe, but a lot more people will see Avatar for sure. I'm not super confident in Avatar. That's why I've got it right there at number 9. I'm just more confident in it than any of these things I have below it, honestly, just because it'll make a bunch of money. It's a proven franchise, a proven director, all that. So there's easily a world where it does miss, but I've still got it sneaking in there because it's something I believe in more than some of these other films, like Secret Agent, which I just have you seen the film? And just having seen it, it's long. I think lots of people will, like, fall asleep or lose interest. It gets, like, there's pretty much no plot to it at all. The best part is, like, the last 20 minutes, but it's
Everything you just said, people said about Drive My Car.
yeah, but Drive My Car was, like, a top, like, sweeping critics prizes that year.
Oh,
Secret
we
Agent
don't
is not
know
gonna
yet.
do
We'll
that.
see if Secret Agent is a
With
sweeping.
this, you think it's gonna sweep critics prizes?
I'm not
I don't
we don't know, but
I
it
don't
could do very well. Wagner Moura could do very well. I just think
I
that
think he'll get in.
I just think, and again, I'm not making the argument that it will do as well as Drive My Car or anything, but will it do better than Avatar: Fire and Ash? Yes. I just don't think Disney
Well,
is
yeah,
gonna
with
really.
critics, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see somebody sitting down unless they just feel like they listed all their favorite movies. Oh, I had fun at Avatar. Check it off. Like that's the only scenario
It'll
where I
be a
see.
recent theater experience, and theater experiences with those films are very, very memorable. And having it just happened recently after when they're voting, I think people will be like, "Yeah, that was a great experience." And I think it will be, as given the hints that they've made about the story, a more moving film within the franchise as well.
I
But
just also remember the context of which the first two come out. The first one comes out and it was a front runner for Best Picture. It was this, never before seen technological achievement. And then the second one comes out at a time when people were, I think the Academy and people who vote were really pushing for theaters to come back. And they wanted to send a message that Avatar: The Way of Water, Top Gun: Maverick, these are big movies. Even Everything Everywhere was a big hit on the indie level. They wanted to send that message. That's not a message that we need to worry about now in 2025. We're good. We're back. Movie theaters are good. They're not going anywhere, at least for now. And so
mhm.
I don't think there are less reasons to get excited about Avatar: Fire and Ash, and I think there are a lot of reasons somebody could get excited about Secret Agent.
But do you really think there's never been 3 international films in Best Picture, and you think there's gonna be 3 international films all from the same company?
Yeah.
I don't think Neon will be able to pull that off.
I mean, remember those sort of stats. I mean, it's only recently that we went back to the mandatory 10. Like it's
Mhm.
like so the idea that we're now, because this is the thing. We used to be in a world where there wasn't a mandatory 10, and we used to be in a world where indie studios were not performing at this level. But since then, with A24, with Neon, these are studios that are kind of asserting their dominance. And we also need to exist in a world where 10 nominations are required. And so the fact that these two things are happening at once, I think makes sense. Frankly, you can argue that, oh, is Neon giving everybody the perfect campaign that they need? And that is a question. But I also think you look at the movie individually. And I think there are going to be enough people that respond to each of those movies. And frankly, I'm
The
not even worried
same
about the other two.
people,
The
though.
other two are getting in. So then the question is there
The other 2
room
are
for the secret agent? And
I don't think
so
there is. It's extremely rare for a film for a distributor to be able to have enough money to properly get 3 films into Best Picture. They have to choose and prioritize some films campaign-wise more so than others. I think they've got 2 pretty secure ones that they will prioritize with It Was Just Next and Sentimental Value. That I worry Secret Agent, that campaign will be more focused on actor and international, and I don't think it will be able to sneak into picture just because I don't think it will have the same level of
I mean,
campaign
was
as
I'm
those
still
others.
here really campaigned? I'm still here, I think, was got into picture because
Yes,
people were
Sony
tweeting.
Pictures.
Yeah, but it was more, I think people were responding to Fernando Torres, were responding to international feature. And then because that was in conversation so strongly in those categories, then it came over into picture. I don't
That's
think
all
like,
part of a campaign, though. That wasn't completely
yes, but
natural. That is
again,
calculated.
I would not doubt Neon. I would certainly give more credit to Neon than I would Disney at this point, being able to turn Avatar: Fire and Ash into another prestige, blockbuster.
Disney has nothing else to campaign this year. That's all they've got.
Well,
This is
then maybe
Neon's
they don't
third
get
or
paid.
fourth
I mean,
priority.
frankly, I mean, between that and their Searchlight, division, it's just like that is the other thing we have to talk about. Searchlight is just not here this year. Maybe is this thing on is able to catch a lot of enthusiasm when it opens, and if it maybe gets Will Arnett or screenplay, maybe Laura Dern. Who knows? They should be pushing Laura Dern and supporting, but whatever. I think they don't want her to compete against Jake Kelly, but they should put her in there.
That's not gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
honestly, like, we have to also acknowledge it's not just that Neon could overperform. Disney Searchlight is massively underperforming this year.
Well,
That is,
let's move on right there. Speaking of which, number 11 is, I do think if Searchlight's going to get one in, I think it is Ann Lee more so than I do like Is This Thing On more as a film. But I just think clearly they're showing that Ann Lee is going to be their main push. And Searchlight is very good at campaigning and getting stuff in. But even then, I just, having seen it, I have doubts about it actually being big enough and well received enough by enough people to make it in. I have Amanda in, and that's it. And I think it would need to get some tech noms alongside that for the film to get into that. And every film that I have in my fifth spot in those tech categories, I believe in more than I do in Ann Lee. So I just can't really fit it in. Like when I look at my production design 5 or my costume design 5, I'm like, I believe in all of these films getting a nomination more so than I do this. I don't know if it will be eligible for score. I don't really remember any of the songs per se. So I just don't see what its nomination haul would be outside of Safe Read. I think it will likely be Searchlight's Jackie more than it will be like their A Complete Unknown or whatever their picture pushes.
yeah.
But it is tempting because I see a world where it does happen. But right now, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I think it definitely Amanda's doing well. Like, we have to see how it performs when it opens. And I just get the sense it's going to be it's going to be a low priority screener for people. I don't see people going like crazy to seek this one out. And then unfortunately, I think this will, it won't be a prime contender then because of it.
Yeah. Um, no Other Choice, I think, is also definitely plausible, but it runs into the same thing, the same issue I had with putting Secret Agent in there. It's Neon's third or fourth priority. Also, Park Chan Wook, his style has never been. I mean, the Academy has changed a little bit since then, but his style has never been quite the Academy's style. And I just fear I can't put three international films from the same company into Best Picture. But who knows? Maybe that has. I mean, that also has not released. That comes out in December. It did great at the fall film festivals. It won the international prize at TIFF over films like Sentimental Value. It was just next in all of them. So there's clearly love for it. I don't know. I worry about it personally. Um, and yeah, these other films. I think Blue Moon, that's Sony Picture Classics' main push this year, and as we saw last year, they can be very sneaky. I think there's a world where it gets into that last spot off of actor, which I think Ethan Hawke is very strong in
I think it's too
screenplay
small.
and make.
I would love it to happen. I just think it's too small. I don't think it's going to grab people. Like, it doesn't have the scope of a Best Picture. And it reminds me of like when Being the Ricardos was being considered for like
Mhm.
that last spot, and then it went to something like Drive My Car, which I think people looked at more as a cinematic achievement than something like Being the
Yeah,
Ricardo. I feel like Blue Moon is going to fit in that, but it's a great film. And I think it's appropriately scaled for the story it's telling.
yeah.
As is This Thing On. I honestly would bring that higher. I think if anything has the potential to surprise, I think that does because it is entertaining. Bradley
Oh,
Cooper
I
is
think
certainly well done, well, loved within the Academy, at least for nominations. And I just think these other ones, there's just going to be, I think, some hindrance to them. Where I think Is This Thing On? At least I think it's people will want to watch it. Like, people will put it on, they'll rewatch it. It's fun, but it does stay with you. No, I saw it at the New York Film Festival, and I'm still, it still left a mark as far as certain scenes and certain moments. He's a very capable filmmaker, and a proven commodity, which a lot of these other films are not. They're going to be.
mhm.
I feel like if you have names associated with your movie, there's a little bit more of a trust factor that goes into willing to put it on and give it a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the movie. I like it the most probably out of Searchlight's main pushes. I just don't see. I feel like it's maybe also a little too small to end up getting in there. Overall, I feel like it would probably just be what picture and screenplay. I don't really think it would get anything else outside of that. So it would have to be one of those like bottom contenders that like a Past Lives or Women Talking that just gets picture and screenplay. But I mean, it's plausible. I just think if Searchlight's going to push one, I feel like they're going to be more behind Ainley than they will be Is This Thing On? But we are
Yeah,
yet to see. The
go back
campaigns haven't really fully begun.
go back to your list of the 10. Just want to make a point.
Mhm.
You have a lot of films here that I think speak to like this sort of like can be taught in film school energy. Like
Mhm.
and like that's at least what Avatar has going for it, is that it appeals to the broader spectrum of voters. So I do think when you look at Is This Thing On, at least it feels more like, a sort of like traditional, like the type of movie Steven Soderbergh was making and doing very well with at the Academy 25 years ago.
That was
That sort of,
25 years ago. That's not the
yeah.
modern
I mean,
Academy.
are we really going to go down this list? I mean, there's a lot of movies here that they were making 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I just get the sense that that has a different flavor than a lot of these other movies, which again could hurt it, but it could help it. Where I think Testament of Anne Lee definitely fits in with a lot of these contenders. And
Mhm.
so you just wonder about the overlap of voters. The type of people that would vote for Is This Thing On, they don't really have a lot of other movies that they could get behind. Where the Testament of Anne Lee people are going to vote for all of the Neon movies, Hamnet.
Yeah.
There are movies that they have. There are probably other priorities they have.
Yeah, I think Blue Moon, Jay Kelly, and Is This Thing all kind of fit that mold a little bit. I know lots of people still believe in Jay Kelly. I'm just waiting and seeing with that. I think it's it's done okay at all the film festivals. It's never been like raved, and I don't know. I feel like I don't really see it getting acting nominations, and then it would just be probably screenplay and picture, and I just don't sense the passion for it. But people say that there's going to be industry passion for it, so who knows? Maybe. I also haven't seen it, so I can't really speak to it. But yeah, I'm in a wait and see territory with that one for sure. Um, and then beyond that, I think, I mean, I don't really
The other
think
ones, frankly, just they're just
not gonna
not.
happen.
There's just too much like either question
Baggage.
or baggage or negativity around them. Controversy, and not controversy and like scandal, but like just like
Mhm.
House of Dynamite. I just think there's too many people disagreeing about the ending for it to really get
Yeah.
up in this race.
That letterbox score drop once it hit Netflix was insane. It was at like 3.6 and now it's at like I think like a
Which is
2.9.
funny because you could say the same thing happened to last year with Netflix with Amelia Perez, where that thing,
Mhm.
boom, after the
Yeah.
festivals. It's strange to me. I mean, I've always had my theory that Netflix movies at home are a very different animal than Netflix movies
Oh, yeah.
in theaters and on the festival. There was a different energy, and House of Dynamite was unfortunately the one that was affected by that the most. Um,
Mhm.
Again, I understand why Weapons is here because you could say it could pop in sound, supporting
Screenplay,
actress, and
supporting actress.
screenplay, but I continue to think that that is not a like an Oscar vehicle, and it
No, I
feels
agree.
it feels to me what A Quiet Place was, where people loved it and wanted it to be, but it never really was.
Yeah, I don't the best place it would show up is for Madigan. I still have doubts about that. I think I'm gonna wait and see until she starts hitting precursors to put her in there, but that's an open category, so who knows, maybe. But I don't think overall. I think if it had like a stronger message to it, if it felt like it was more about something, which it is, I think it's just not as direct as I think lots of people like their films to be about its messaging. That might help it, but I think it's also Warner Brothers' third priority and their second horror film, so that never helps. And yeah, Begonia, like we said, the ending, I think people seem very confident in that film getting into Best Picture still, and I just don't personally get that. I think it's just I think once you see it, if you still have it in Best Picture, I'm a little like side eyeing you. Like I just don't think that that is the film that's going to break in there. It's much more like his previous films before
Well,
Poor Things and The
not
Favorite than it
quite.
is.
I thought it was very compelling as far as how it approached looking at the class divide in our society to the point
It's
that
a
we are
hard
alienating
watch, though.
each other. It is a hard watch, but I think it was also very compelling and thought provoking and created
Mhm.
its own world. And those two actors are phenomenal. and then it makes a turn that I think makes the rest of the movie irrelevant. And so I think at
Yeah.
that point, it just I honestly feel like if they had cut the last 10 minutes out of that movie, I probably would be higher, probably would be 11. You know, I just think that the problem with that sort of choice is that it betrays the emotional agreement that you had with the movie up to that point. I feel,
Yeah.
and so once you do that, and that's the movie, that's the taste you end on with your movie. I think you've lost the plot, literally.
Yeah. Agreed. So that's pretty much it for the outside of picture contenders. We have done it all.
How many double-digit contenders do you think we're going to have?
3.
Okay, I'm
How
going to
many
say
do you?
4,
4. Okay.
and we obviously, and you
Yeah.
can tell which
You've
one
got
I
you've got
have
me.
that you don't.
Yeah. Well, I've got it close. I've got it getting, I think, 9. So
Yeah.
it's one way.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots. We'd have to do the research on it. I can't forget the last time we had like that many double-digit top-tier contenders. It's been a while, I feel like. So definitely a top-heavy year, I would say, which is why it makes those last few spots in Best Picture trickier to fill out than usual, I feel like. But we agree for the most part, and I feel like most people have at least like 8 in common with both of our predictions.
Yeah.
So especially in
I think
November,
I
that's a
honestly
little
think
concerning.
it's the two potential Best Actor coattail nominees. It's Secret Agent
Mhm.
and Train Dreams. Those are the ones that I think people are toying with other contenders. And if you don't have those, then you have the Avatars, you know, or something else. So
Yeah,
we shall see, you know. What will be
I
interesting
think
is that
so.
if, because everything is so like top heavy, is there a movie that we like will just come out of nowhere? Will and Ann Lee, will, and is this thing on? Because there is space for that. At this time, nobody was
Yeah.
predicting Drive My Car, so I'm curious to see if
Or
anything
I'm
is,
still here.
or I'm still here. Yes.
Yeah. Definitely still lots of season to go. We've barely even just begun. So yeah, interesting time of year. Comment your guys' predictions at the moment down below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What do you think is on the edge to maybe sneak in there? A dark horse that maybe people aren't considering? All that fun stuff. And like the video and subscribe to stay tuned because we are in award season and you'll want to stick around. So thank you all, and we'll see you in the next one.